Hey guys, it's Chloe here. I have decided to make a video today. As you can tell by the title, the video is going to be about my first pregnancy and birth with my first son Evan. And yes, as the title suggests, my first pregnancy was a planned teen pregnancy. So I wanted to make a pregnancy and birth story video for all of my pregnancies and births. So my first pregnancy, which was a teen pregnancy, my second pregnancy, which I suppose was a teen pregnancy too, because I was 19 when I was pregnant with my second, and they were born 11 months apart, and that was planned as well. And then my third, which I had a home birth for, and then my fourth pregnancy, which was triplets, and we had them at 28 weeks, and there's a lot to tell with that story too. So I don't know, I kind of thought that I would do some of these videos to give you guys a bit of, you know, backstory, just for any of you guys that are new, or anyone that has been following for a while that might not know a lot of this stuff, if they kind of haven't been following from the beginning, or they've just never seen me mention any of this stuff anyway, because I probably don't talk about it all the time. But I thought it would be nice to have a place where it was all in one spot, so you guys can, you know a little bit more about our background and yeah, get to know us a little bit better. I'm filming this video in my son's room, my three boys' room. This is Felix's bed, and that's his eggplant and his orangutan Freddy. So he sleeps with those every night, and he's obsessed with eggplants. Just in case you were wondering why there is a giant eggplant there, that's Felix's eggplant. So yes, as the title does suggest, it was a planned teen pregnancy, and I guess I thought I would make a video sort of explaining that and why we made the decision to have a baby so young, because I know it is something that a lot of people don't understand, and I even do sometimes get comments from people saying that I shouldn't, glorify a teen pregnancy, and I don't really think that that's what I'm doing, because I mean, it's my life, it's my story, it's my truth. I just kind of want to share, my truth, and I think a lot of factors go into deciding, whether to have a baby, and personally, I think age is a really small factor. It was for me anyway, obviously. So to get started, my husband and I, we have been together for almost 12 years now. It'll be 12 years in March. And we got married on our 5 years of dating anniversary. So we've almost been married for 7 years, and we've been together for 12 years almost. When we got together, I was 14 and he was 17. And yeah, I know that's a huge age difference, and a lot of people don't agree with that either, but that's a whole nother story. I can save that for another video perhaps. But basically, I mean, we felt the same age. We were probably just as mature as each other, and we were just into all the same things. We were pretty much just best buds, to be honest. Like, we just did everything together, and we just loved spending time together. But we started talking about having children from quite a young age. Well, not talking about having them at a really young age, but we started talking about the future quite soon after we got together, within the first year or something. And we both knew that we wanted kids. And from the time I was about 16, I was, starting to feel more like I wanted to start a family, which I know is super young, but I have just always wanted children. And yeah, I was just super keen to start a family, but we did have some things that we wanted to make sure we did first before we started our own family. And those things were, we wanted to make sure we were living together, and we moved out together when I was 17, so we were 17 and 20 at the time, and we wanted to make sure obviously we could support ourselves financially. So Rowan, my husband, he was working full-time at the time as a baker, and we were quite comfortable financially, and we also wanted to wait until I was 18. So we did that. We waited till I was 18. We were engaged at the time. We had actually bought our own property, and we were living in our own house that we had bought. And yes, financially we were supporting ourselves quite comfortably. So all of these things, that they were deciding factors into whether we should start a family. I think it would be very different if I were a couple of years younger, if we were living at home with our parents, if neither of us had a job and we didn't have any income. and that sort of thing, but that just wasn't the case. So even though I was 18, I was an adult and I felt like an adult. So I have personally hardly ever considered myself a teen parent, but I do know that, you know, being pregnant at 18 obviously falls under the category of a teenage pregnancy. But I was an adult, and it was just a choice that we decided to make. People often wonder, you know, what I was thinking when it came to my career and that sort of thing. And honestly, at 18, I had no idea what I wanted to do career-wise. I knew I wanted to do something creative, and I knew I wanted to work for myself, although I didn't know if those things were realistic. I didn't know if I'd be able to do those things. But that is sort of the gist of what I was hoping to do, although I just didn't quite know yet. So when we got to the point of, you know, deciding whether we should start a family or not, one thing we did consider was me having a career. And I mean, I definitely wanted to have a career at some point, but I had heard that a lot of people, you know, they started a career young, they got really into it, and then when it was time to have a baby, it was just kind of awkward to halt their career for a couple of years when they started a family, and then really tricky to get back into their career later. So that was another factor in deciding to have kids first. We figured it actually might be easier to have kids. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom before they went to school, so we wanted to have kids, be a stay-at-home mom while Ro was supporting us financially, and then once they went to school is when I would start thinking about a career. And obviously things are quite different as we'd planned, but that is just life. Things turn out quite differently. So what we do for work now, Rowan doesn't work as a baker anymore, although he's still a fully qualified baker, but we have our own educational toy store that we run from home, and that is something that we have wanted to do ever since Evan was a baby. And we just started getting really passionate about children's products, toys, books and things like that, and anything that sort of is really good for kids development and fun and educational and stuff like that. So we were really into that sort of stuff, and we really wanted to open our own toy store. Well, we had a dream of opening like a brick and mortar toy store, which we still might do one day, but at the moment it's just online. It's called the Bendy Beanstalk if you guys want to go check it out. But yeah, that is what we do for work. And another thing that didn't go to plan was that our kids don't go to school. We homeschool, so we homeschool them and we run our business together from home. So I feel like, you know, no matter how much you try and plan life anyway, try and plan a career, this and that, it doesn't always work out to plan anyway. So yeah, we wanted to have a family first. We just trusted our instincts. I really wanted to become a mother, and Ro was really keen on starting a family as well, as we had been talking about it for a while. And even though it probably seemed a little nuts to people around us at the time, because I was 18 and Ro was 21 when we got pregnant with our first, to us it didn't seem like that, because it had felt like we'd been together for a really long time. We'd been living together for a while. We were engaged to get married. We owned our own home together, and it just really felt like the right time for us. So I think deciding to have a baby is definitely more about just your life circumstances, what's going on at the moment in your life, what you're going through, you know, if you're stable financially and in your relationship and all of that sort of stuff, rather than your age itself. Because I know that there's a lot of, you know, people that get pregnant that are in their 20s and 30s that have a much harder time than some people that get pregnant a lot younger have, if that makes sense. So yes, we did plan a pregnancy so young, and it was the best thing we ever did. Yeah, we just love where we're at in life right now, and we wouldn't change it. So that is why we chose to have children young. So we started trying when I was 18. I got pregnant on the second cycle, and it was a pretty straightforward pregnancy. I didn't really have any complications. And yeah, he was born at 41 weeks and 3 days, which was an induction for being overdue. And yeah, he weighed 4 kilos, which is 9 pounds. So like I said, I was induced, labor went for about 12 hours, and he was born sunny side up, so his face was pointing upwards instead of down. I had an epidural, and yeah, it was pretty straightforward up until after he was born, when the placenta was meant to come out, and one of the medical professionals actually stuck their hand all the way up there to grab it, and that is when I bled all over the floor, had a postpartum hemorrhage, and lost 1.2 liters of blood, which was pretty difficult. You know, in the weeks after birth I was quite pale and weak, but I quickly recovered from that. It wasn't too bad. And yeah, now he's 7 years old. His name is Evan Anthony. You guys would know a lot about him if you watch our channel Life with Beans. But that is pretty much the story of why we decided to have a baby young, and sort of the story of, you know, how he came into this world. I know a lot of people won't agree with trying to get pregnant on purpose as a teenager, but like I said, I think it really depends on circumstances. So I felt like an adult. I was technically an adult, and we were living together and in a committed relationship. We're still together now, almost 12 years later. And yes, I think the circumstances are much more important details than age itself. But that being said, I did get pregnant at 18. I had him when I was 19, and I'm very happy that I did. For the next video in this series of my pregnancy and birth stories, I will do a video about my second son, Otto. He was born 11 months after Evan, so conceived shortly after Evan was born, and I will talk all about that in the next video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you like this channel. Also check out our other channel, Life with Beans, and follow me on Instagram, Chloe and Beans. Other than that, I will see you guys all again next time. Bye.